If you've ever felt overwhelmed by your closet, unsure of your style, or just guilty for not wearing all the things that you own, you're in the right place. Most of us think that our wardrobe struggles are about the clothes themselves. We blame the wrong color, the wrong shape, not having enough inspiration, or outfit formulas. But what if your wardrobe is actually telling you how you relate to the world, and maybe even why you're feeling stuck? Today I'm going to walk you through the 4 wardrobe patterns I see all the time and how they mirror the way that we build relationships. Because once you know which type you are, you'll start to understand why your wardrobe feels the way it does and what it's trying to tell you. So if you're ready to take an honest look into your wardrobe, let's dive right in. Before we dive into the 4 wardrobe types, I want to quickly share this idea that's been sitting with me for a while. Clothes are a little bit like people. There are some people that you instantly click with, right? And it's the same with some clothes. You just instantly fall in love with them. Some clothes, just like people, might take you a little bit to get to know, but once you do, you realize that they're actually really dependable and they become your go-to pieces. Some clothes might be like the friends that you meet regularly and you feel like you know them very well, versus other clothes can be like those people that you maybe meet once or twice a year, but you still really enjoy catching up and it doesn't really feel like that much time has passed. And then finally, there are the pieces that we might wear out of habit or because nothing else really fits us or fits the occasion. And so these are not necessarily clothes that we love, but they're more comfort based. So if clothes are like people, then I started to wonder, could actually your wardrobe as a whole look a bit like your social circle and your social life? And so that is where I decided to break this down into the 4 different patterns that I have observed both in myself but also in clients and people around me. And each of those types will give you a slightly different emotional pattern. So let's look into all 4 of them. And as you're listening, try and see which one feels the closest to you right now. So let's start first with type 1, which I call the curator. So in this case, you probably have a smaller wardrobe. So I would say maybe about 150 pieces in total, including shoes and accessories. And you might find yourself doing more of a seasonal capsule. This is not obligatory, but you might find yourself just drawn to the fact that smaller capsules allow you to use everything that you own and still be creative. I would say that the curator loves and wears most of their pieces, if not all of them, and they find a lot of ease and joy and satisfaction in actually having less. In terms of adding anything new to their wardrobe, they may have a wish list and plan for any purchases, and maybe if they see something that they fall completely in love with, they would buy it, but it is much slower and much more intentional. And how I think about this is someone that has a smaller circle of friends. It doesn't mean you're not social, it just means that you're more selective about the people that you spend your time with. And I would say that you probably have a couple of really close friends, people that are your ride or die, they're very trustworthy. And you just enjoy spending time with them. You don't feel bored, you don't feel this desire and need to go and find new friends and meet new people. But at the same time, if you're in an environment, maybe you go to a class, you start a new job or anything else, and you meet someone that you completely vibe with, you're not closed to that connection, you're open to meeting new people, but you're not intentionally going out and seeking them. Now, let's look into what happens if you still have a smaller wardrobe, but you're not actually that happy with it. And this is type 2, which I call the hesitant. So they still have a smaller wardrobe, maybe again about 150 pieces, but they actually feel really trapped, bored, or limited by the clothes that they have at present. And the type 2 person may hesitate to change or expand their wardrobe due to different limitations. For example, they might have a really small space and so they don't feel like they can have any more clothes. They might feel like at the moment their budget doesn't allow them to bring anything new. They might have gained a bit of weight or lost a bit of weight and they feel like a big part of their wardrobe actually doesn't fit them, but they're worried about buying something new. Or they might be someone that maybe wants to expand their wardrobe, but they're really worried about wearing the pieces that they really want. And so they're worried about standing out and feeling out of place where they live. So in terms of how they wear their pieces, I would say it's mostly out of habit. And they might be the person that only wears 20% of their wardrobe because that is what works for them right now. So the outfits that they create might not necessarily feel like they're their perfect personal style, but they don't really know about how to move forward. And they might even want to expand their wardrobe, but they're worried about making a bad purchase or they don't even know where to even start. And in terms of real life relationships, this would be like the person who has a small circle of friends and acquaintances, but maybe they feel like they're starting to outgrow or they've already outgrown their social circle. Maybe they've developed a different interest, maybe they don't feel that connected to the people that are in their life because maybe they have different goals and aspirations. But at the same time, it can feel really awkward to say no to hanging out with those people. And so they say yes out of sense of duty, maybe because it feels familiar, maybe because they don't know what else to do, but it's not because they absolutely love hanging out with those people. And they might feel like they want to go and make a new friend. But at the same time, it can be really scary, right? Because how do you make a new friend as an adult? How do you start from scratch? And so sometimes they might feel like they just want to move to a different place and start fresh. But at the same time, the thought of starting like that can feel really overwhelming. And so now that you've seen the two different types of people that might have a smaller wardrobe, and one is more content versus one is more anxious and overwhelmed, let's look into what happens if we move to a larger wardrobe. So here we have type 3, which I call the Archivist. So this person will have a larger wardrobe, so maybe above 150 pieces, and you would recognize that person because they'll probably have a mix of more everyday clothes and more practical pieces, but also some more special pieces, more playful pieces, and just kind of a variety of different clothes. Now, the archivist may have a large wardrobe, but they know that every single piece in their wardrobe actually has a specific role. And so even if they wear some pieces only once or twice a year, they still love them. And so they're not going to declutter that piece just because they're not getting that much wear out of it. And because they have a larger wardrobe, it actually allows them to experiment, be a bit more playful and more creative, and have outfits that suit different occasions and perhaps show different sides of them. Now, in terms of adding new pieces, this person is quite content with their large collection, and they don't feel the need to constantly keep adding new things. They might find a piece is missing, for example, they don't have the right coat for this season, or maybe something gets worn out and they want to replace it, maybe something stops fitting and they want to find a replacement. But they're not necessarily in a rush to buy new pieces all the time because they're quite content with their wardrobe, even though it is quite large. It doesn't bring them a sense of overwhelm, it just makes them happy and makes them want to be more creative. Now, in terms of this person's social circle, I would say that they probably have a wider, more diverse social circle where they may have a couple of closer friends, but also have quite a lot of acquaintances as well. So it's just a little bit of a broader network. I would say that it might be quite common for this person to feel like they have different friends from different situations. So they might have a couple of friends from work, a couple of friends from their studies, maybe a couple of older friends, a couple of friends from a hobby that they have. And they don't necessarily feel the need for all of those people together to be friends because they feel like the different people that they know are going to be kind of suitable and really nice to hang with on different occasions. Now, finally, I would say there's someone that feels quite connected, they know who they are, and they feel a sense of belonging wherever they go, regardless of the group of people they're with. And so for this person, I would say they might have a broader circle, but they're actually quite content with it. And now that we've seen what happens when you have a larger wardrobe and you're quite happy with it, let's look into the opposite situation where you might have a larger wardrobe, but not necessarily share the same feelings. So this is where type 4 actually comes into play. And I decided to call this type the Wanderer because they have a large wardrobe, again, similar in size to type 3. But unlike type 3, which might be more content and slower to bring new things in, type 4 will oftentimes bring new pieces at a faster pace because they enjoy the sense of newness and the excitement of bringing new clothes, shoes, and accessories into their wardrobe. Even though they have a large collection of clothes, they might still gravitate to about 20 to 30% of their wardrobe and also have a bit of a sense of guilt because they see all of those clothes, all of those pieces, and they don't feel like they're making the best use out of them. And so sometimes they might go on a large declutter or they might just collect those pieces but not actually use them. In terms of how they feel, I would say that there is this underlying sense of overwhelm, and it can be quite strong or not that strong, but there is this disconnection from their wardrobe and their style. They don't necessarily feel like they can make so many outfits, they don't feel like they're using everything to the best of their ability. And they might turn to shopping as a coping strategy for dealing with some emotions. Now, in terms of the real life scenario, I would say that the wanderer will have a large network of people, but it will feel more like a network of strangers, a network of maybe acquaintances. And so this person will try to meet new people all the time, maybe go to events, put themselves in different situations, try new things. And that is all in an attempt to have fun and maybe have a feeling of belonging within a certain group. But in the end, when they come back home, they might still feel a little bit lonely. Like they know a lot of people, but they're not necessarily close and can't really rely on any of them if things went bad. And even though they might seek new connections and trying to make new friends all the time, they might feel also guilty for maybe neglecting the people that they already have in their life. Maybe they're older friends or people that they haven't really seen in a while because they're so busy trying to make new connections. And deep down, they just have this desire to connect on a deeper level, but they might not necessarily know exactly how. And so, as you can see, it is not really so much about how big your wardrobe is or what kind of pieces you own. It is much more about whether what you have is making you feel supported or whether it's making you feeling anxious or overwhelmed. Now, maybe as you were listening, one of those types felt a bit uncomfortably familiar, or maybe you saw yourself in more than one type in different parts of your life. And the truth is, we don't always stay in one type forever. As your life shifts, your wardrobe might shift as well, and how you feel about it might temporarily change. So what prompted this entire video was a reflection of where my shopping habits were at the moment in the last couple of days, maybe the last week, and realizing that what I'm doing is not necessarily consistent with how I want to be. And in the past, I have definitely been more into the type 2 category where I didn't necessarily like the clothes, I didn't wear many of them, and I always wanted to maybe wear more colorful things or more interesting pieces, but I never felt like I had the confidence to do that. And so I would stay stuck with the pieces that I had, but I wasn't actually content and satisfied with that wardrobe. And at that point in time, I definitely remember making some mistake purchases, and whether that was spending too much money on a specific item or buying pieces that weren't actually good for me, I've talked all about it in this video right here. But in the past 2 to 3 years, I feel like I have got a lot better when it comes to picking pieces that represent me, represent my style, who I am, right? And so I felt like I had successfully moved to the Archivist. I felt I was in a really good place with my wardrobe and I wasn't really shopping all that much, and I felt like I had clothes for different situations. However, in the past 10 days, it has been very interesting. And this video in here actually blew up. Now, it's obviously not gone like to millions of views or anything like that, but for the size of my channel, it has done very well and it has attracted a lot of new people. I started going from maybe 10 to 20 new subscribers a day and maybe a couple of comments to 100 subscribers a day and having 20, 30, 50 new comments from people that I didn't really recognize. And so here is the funny thing about YouTubers. We all say that we want growth, we want to reach more people and grow the channel and all of that. But also with that growth comes a lot of discomfort. And so because I started to receive more comments, more opinions, more visibility, and I would say like I'm incredibly grateful for all of that. And also 99.9% of the things that I receive are very positive messages, or if it's more of a criticism, it's always quite constructive. So I appreciate that. But nevertheless, it felt like I was in a room full of 100 strangers when I would have 100 comments on the video. And so in the past year, there are maybe 20 to 30 people who have been very regular viewers and regular commenters on my channel, and you know who you are because I recognize your names and I always try to respond. But over the past 10 days, it has just felt impossible to do that, and I started to feel guilty. I started to feel overstimulated, overwhelmed with maybe all of the attention, and yeah, just kind of lost my grounding, lost my footing. And what I noticed is that because I was experiencing something that I hadn't really experienced before, I turned out to shopping, because in the past, when I wasn't really happy, that was my coping mechanism. But actually, this time, I was coming from a different space because I was happy, but I was just overstimulated. And so I noticed in the last couple of days, I started shopping and I started bringing stuff that are overall good purchases. So they're not things that don't fit me. They're things that I know I'm going to wear. They're things that I like. They're things that are very reasonably priced. But I was bringing in new beautiful pieces at a much faster rate than I could enjoy them. And so my YouTube channel was giving me a bit of a sense of overwhelm. And then my closet started to give me a sense of overwhelm rather than calm. And so rather than helping, which shopping had done in the past, it actually exacerbated and kind of intensified that feeling of overwhelm and guilt, because I felt like there are pieces that I bought maybe 2, 3, 5 years ago that I wasn't wearing as much, because rather than having 15 skirts that I wear, I now have maybe 30 skirts. And so naturally, I'm going to wear every piece slightly less often. And I started to feel guilty. And like, I'm not making full use of my wardrobe. And like, it's not actually serving my purpose. And so that feeling of discomfort, because I wasn't familiar with the people on my channel that were commenting and I wasn't able to respond to everyone, literally translated to my wardrobe, where I wasn't familiar with all of the pieces. I didn't feel like I had a strong connection, so I didn't always know how to wear something. It wasn't as easy to get dressed. And so that lack of connection and belonging literally started to give me physical sensations, which sounds ridiculous, but I ended up having heart palpitations for the past 4 days, to the point that I had to go to the ER because I thought that something was wrong with me. And this sounds stupid to say that, but even sometimes, like, when what you want is actually happening, it can still bring discomfort. And I feel like for me, that sort of growth and reaching more people and expanding the channel is something that I wanted. I've wanted that for years, and I'm so grateful for every single person that watches and comments and likes and anything like that you do on my channel. You are my people, and I'm so grateful for that. But at the same time, I am not used to not knowing the people in my audience, and that sort of feeling of insecurity, perhaps, of exposure, is something that is probably going to take me a bit of time to get used to. And this time I realized that shopping as a tool wasn't actually helping at all. It was making things worse. I realized that in my real life, I would absolutely hate it if I had a large network of people, but I didn't feel close to anyone. And that is not my preferred way of being. And I would much rather have a couple close friends and then a wider network, but I feel like I know everyone and I feel connected in some way. The only way to do that with my wardrobe is to literally stop bringing new pieces for some time, because I just need to adjust to what I have and make use of it. And so I've decided basically that I'm going to put myself on kind of a shopping pause. I'm not calling it no buy, low buy or anything like that. I'm just calling it a shopping pause because it's gonna last as long as it needs to, whether that is a month or 6 months or a year. I have no idea just yet, but I am kind of tuning things in real time and removing that pressure to find new amazing pieces. And I just want to enjoy what I have. And so obviously just realizing this hasn't magically completely resolved the problem, but it has definitely given me the awareness to, first of all, stop spiraling and remove those unpleasant sensations, and allowed me to stop being so reactive and actually choose what to do next, which is what I've decided. And I wanted to briefly touch upon what you can do right now, wherever you find yourself in, because even if you're type 1 or type 3, there are still maybe things that might trip you up in certain times. So I just wanted to go through all 4. So for type 1, I think the danger might be getting bored or stuck in a style routine and maybe just being very hesitant to bring anything new. I feel like you are in a good place, but if you ever start feeling just a little bit bored, things like going on Pinterest and finding inspiration, maybe if you have your clothes on index, asking someone to style you, anything like that that allows you to do maybe more stylistic experiments with your style is something that is going to help. Basically, you're allowed to explore, and it doesn't mean that you're completely abandoning your values. Now, if you are in type 2, so you're the hesitant person, you probably feel this disconnection from your wardrobe, right? And you might have this big desire to literally just abandon everything and start from scratch. And I've actually heard that from some clients, that they want to build a brand new wardrobe. And just like I wouldn't advise getting rid of every single person in your surroundings unless they are literally toxic and not making you feel good. But if they're okay people, finding just one acquaintance, one new person to kind of bring into your social circle can bring that sense of excitement and joy and contentment, right? And so for you, I would say, in terms of your wardrobe, just maybe bringing 1 or 2 new pieces and maybe making it a little bit lower stakes. So perhaps buying it pre-loved so it doesn't cost that much money, or maybe wearing something at home first and wearing it with all of the items that you actually like, and just starting to expand that comfort zone step by step, quite slowly. You don't need to do it fast. And so perhaps asking yourself the question, what would I wear if I wasn't afraid or if I wasn't anxious? How would I dress? What would I do? And then taking those smaller steps to bridge the gap between where you're now and where you want to be. If you are the archivist, I think again, you are in a good place, but there might be some things that you might want to do if you start going into the direction of feeling perhaps a little bit overwhelmed. So the first thing I would say, if this was a friendship group, I would say maybe try calling an old friend and just seeing how they do. And so the same thing you can do with your wardrobe, right? You can revisit some of your favorite pieces that maybe you haven't worn, maybe finding a new way to wear them or wearing them in your favorite way, just giving them a bit more life. It's going to help you with feeling that you're literally enjoying your closet and wearing it. Another thing that may help is just creating something that fits your mood or your needs right now. So it's not about decluttering or getting rid of anything, but you might feel a little bit scattered, right? And so maybe creating a capsule for a week or doing a style experiment again, maybe just dressing in black and white or maybe incorporating yellow every single day or anything like that. It can help you to feel more creative with your pieces if you feel like this is something you need. And finally, I think if you're type 3, you might have outgrown some pieces. And I don't mean physically, I just mean like emotionally. And just like sometimes there are people that come into our life and have a purpose, but they don't need to be there forever. We don't need to always keep in touch with them. And sometimes we outgrow people and relationships. You might have outgrown a certain style that maybe worked for you 5-10 years ago, but you just don't enjoy that much anymore. And if you still love the piece, obviously keep it. But if it's not something that you necessarily love as much, I would say you are allowed to declutter. You're allowed to get rid of some pieces. And even if it's 1 or 2 things that no longer make you happy, just removing them and kind of refining, curating your wardrobe a little bit more can actually help you be really, really content. And finally, if you find yourself like me in the type 4, in the wanderer, you might feel guilty about shopping, disconnected from new and old pieces, and maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed with everything. Feel like pausing shopping is a really good thing. And just kind of treating this not as a punishment for something you've done bad, but it's just an opportunity to make space. And spending time wearing your pieces, creating outfits and enjoying them can help you to build a really good emotional connection with your pieces and make you feel more grounded, more secure, because you know what is in your wardrobe. You know what works, you may know what doesn't, and all of that is going to help you feel more grounded and is going to move you up emotionally all the way from anxiety and overwhelm to feeling more and more supported. And finally, trying to name what sort of feeling are you having when you're trying to shop. Is it boredom? Is it anxiety? Is it loneliness? Is it something else? Because I think for me, it was definitely overwhelm, kind of overstimulation, and I tried to distract myself from it, but this wasn't the right way. And so I hope that you can see that regardless of which of the 4 types you are, you don't need a whole new wardrobe. You might just need a new perspective. And sometimes understanding the emotional role that our clothes are playing is actually the most important tool of all. So let me know which of those 4 resonated with you the most. And if you want to learn more about which of the style systems I recommend following, check out this video right here. I'll see you there.